Hey, Colorado, I'm Ryan Fraser. Here's your business brief. With the Denver area positioned to grow and continue to be a hot spot, I reached out to the city of Fort Morgan's economic development specialist to hear why smaller communities are becoming more attractive for residential and business development. Sarah Crossweight had this insight to share.
Is we're in rural Colorado right now, and I think that's what makes it so attractive, especially during a global pandemic like this. We don't have that congestion that you're going to find in the Front Range. And on top of that, we have really great amenities that you do find in the Front Range. We have open space, parks, and recreational amenities that I think make our community so unique and things that you may not think you would ever find in rural America. But on top of that, we have businesses and industries that are thriving in our community. And we're so fortunate that even through a pandemic, the city of Fort Morgan has been able to sustain itself economically and our businesses continue to thrive. So it's been a really great, I think, time to be in rural Colorado.
Absolutely. Now, there's been some anecdotal evidence that urban Americans are moving out of the bigger cities and metropolitan areas en route to smaller or rural locations, but it's likely too early to really tell how significant that is. According to Realtor.com and Redfin, searches among big city dwellers are way up, in some cases 30% to 50%, and many are looking at smaller communities, suburban areas, and rural communities. From a business perspective, a commercial perspective, why might I, as a small business owner, or anyone, look to start a business or relocate to a smaller town like Fort Morgan?
Yeah, I think again, what makes Fort Morgan so unique is we're competitive. You're going to find the cost of doing business here a lot more affordable than what you're going to find in the Front Range. Fort Morgan is known for owning all its utilities and offering some of the lowest commercial electricity rates. And so I think that's just one of the selling points that you're going to find when you come to Fort Morgan. As a business owner, you want to be able to start your business, grow your business, and expand it in a way that's efficient and effective. And you're going to find that doing business with the city, it always lends itself to that.
I can think of a few other reasons as well to kind of expound on that. I mean, like I think you kind of touched on this. It's probably less crowded and some would argue cleaner environment, less expensive housing, more living space, and remote working is becoming more common. So I think those all are in favor of smaller communities. Now, there are some things that perhaps aren't in the favor of smaller towns, like increasingly we hear about challenges around broadband access, lack of cultural community amenities. You mentioned some that you all have, but like big sports teams and larger concerts, things that get people out and about and that they like to do. And while there may be less expensive housing, there tends to be more limited housing supply in some of these smaller communities. What do smaller cities and towns like Fort Morgan have to do to become more competitive for business and workers and people looking at potentially relocating?
Yeah, I think it comes down to always thinking long term in terms of development and growth for a community. And something that Fort Morgan has done is always think long term. So a lot of those amenities that you talked about right now that typically aren't found in a rural city, Fort Morgan has them. We have a broadband network that we've installed, and we actually partner with Allo Communications to provide fiber optic to every household here in our city. On top of that, we understand how much housing is a need, not only in our city, but all throughout Colorado, and affordable housing at that. And so we've made investments to partner in public-private partnerships and bring housing development here to our community. So we've taken a lot of those steps, but I think as any other community, you have to always continue to look ahead and always think long-term.
Fort Morgan is seeking to draw more commercial as well as residential to town. You have several opportunity zones in the area, which are community economic development tools. I'm a big fan of those. In fact, you are putting on an opportunity roundtable. I'm fortunate enough to be moderating with you all in a few weeks of diverse stakeholders. You have employers like Leprino Foods and Cargill. How does opportunity zones help Fort Morgan? And what else are you doing to attract commercial and residential development?
Yeah, I think opportunity zones have been such an amazing tool for us to use here as a community. When opportunity zones first rolled out, we had over 100 acres that was zoned within that area, and a lot of that land the city owned itself. And so it's been, I think, a huge driver for us to, I think, create attention in what's happening in Fort Morgan. And as a city, we understand that opportunity zones aren't going to get a developer to the table to sign a deal. There's things that as a city we need to do as well. And so we've put in a lot of money into infrastructure to make a lot of those sites within our opportunity zones shovel-ready sites that are ready for development, whether it's commercial, industrial, or housing.
Sarah Crossway, Economic Development Specialist with the City of Fort Morgan. Thanks for coming on the Business Brief. I can tell you, I think the future for Fort Morgan is quite bright, and we appreciate you and wish you guys all the best.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thank you. Thank you.
Here's my take. With some reports from Realtor.com and Redfin indicating that between the pandemic and a shift towards more remote work, searches by city dwellers for more suburban and smaller communities are up between 30% and 50%. Affordability is the driver that makes smaller communities more competitive. And those communities that think long term and address broadband limitations, invest in their road and utility infrastructure, and preserve a simpler quality of life will be positioned well to grow their local economies post COVID-19. That's your business brief. I'm Ryan Fraser from Mile High Mornings.